Coffee, water, checked. Blanket, checked. Comfort clothes, checked. Notebook, my favorite pen, So I guess I'm well prepared to solve the world's problems. See you in a week. Hi darlings! This episode is dedicated to our superpower known as hyperfocus, which is described as an intense state of concentration that can last hours. While one task can be postponed by days or weeks, another can be done immediately when there is a reward afterward. Hyperfocus is also task-oriented, and it doesn't have to be about our hobbies but work and education too. The duration of hyperfocus is not fixed. It can last 2 hours one day and 8 hours on another. This symptom is present in childhood and adult life. When I started preparing this material, I was sure that my hyperfocus appeared when I became an adult, but the more I read, the more I realized that actually it was always with me. I found multiple articles written by psychologists that focused on children spending hours watching TV or playing games. When I was a kid, we had a TV, we had a console, but I wasn't focusing on them at all. I even found them boring. My whole focus landed on books. And don't think I was reading books for children. No. When I was 7, I quickly jumped from Winnie the Pooh to The Lord of the Rings. This is interesting to me because I didn't have any external factors pushing me toward that direction. I only found children's books too short and too simple, and I've read everything I found at the library. I even remember the librarian asking me if I was reading those books at all because I was returning them too fast, and I felt that they didn't believe me. I was easily hyper-focusing on reading because once I started a book, I wanted to finish it and maybe I treated it as a task to be done. When I was a teenager, I found out that it was easier to manage my focus during the night. Writing essays, doing math, and doing experiments for physics, all of that happened after 10 p.m. It was quiet enough and I could spend hours getting things done. You know, in my early teens, the internet wasn't such a good resource as it is today. And I also didn't know why I was hyper-focusing and that I did it at all. I'm only discovering it now as I'm analyzing my life. I was following my gut and I kept doing that even if I was tired during the classes. When it came to classes, my focus was shifted away so often that I didn't know how I finished my education. Really, truly. And it didn't matter if I was sat in the first row or next to the window. Actually, then I didn't remember the whole class. Wherever I sat, I had trouble with listening and I had those embarrassing moments when a teacher caught me and asked me a question and my answer was like, I don't know. When I was 15, I remembered that teachers suspected I was taking drugs because at the same time my classmates were experimenting with them. Now I know why, and I understand that I had difficulties regulating my attention system. I also don't blame my teachers because all of you around my age know that mental health wasn't a subject at all back then. It is important to acknowledge too the fact that the whole educational system is made for neurotypical people, so no wonder we have trouble following up. Even today, I found so many tips for parents to help their children with ADHD that I'm genuinely moved. I wish it was available back then. As an adult, I'm activating my hyperfocus when there is a reward, and it doesn't matter if it's emotional or physical, all of that is due to my interest-based nervous system. Let's pull off here for a moment and have a cup of tea. The interest-based nervous system is a part of how our brains work. I will tell you about the basic triggers for us. Interest. To get things done easily, we need to find it interesting. A task or matter has to have our attention and drag us in. This leads to a strong motivation to complete it. Challenge. Competition can be an intense trigger. Because I'm going to win, right? I will buy all of the streets in Monopoly or have the longest words in Scrabble. I'll be faster, stronger, and smarter to get there. We also don't need people to challenge ourselves. I often challenge myself to get something done within an hour, to be the best in Wordly, or to jump over that object without hurting myself. Novelty. It can spark that excitement when we are trying a new gadget, new strategy, or anything that we are doing for the first time and it feels attractive to us. And the last trigger, urgency. Deadlines are giving us this drive to do it right now before the time runs out. To me, it feels like I'm in a James Bond movie and there's a bomb ticking and I have to do everything to save the world. Otherwise, we will all die. Or I will die. It looks like when there is a crisis, we will solve it no matter what. I think that now it sounds familiar to you. The neurotypical brain is mostly focused on the importance, and for us, it's more like we need something more. More triggers, more factors, more interesting parts to get things done. Let's get back to hyperfocus in adulthood. So, I'm looking for a reward, right? I need this sense of satisfaction after the task is done. I need to feel that, for example, my knowledge expanded, I did something good for myself, and I solved a difficult obstacle. It works much better for me than physical rewards. I need my tasks to be interesting for sure. Challenging? Not especially, but it is a thing I changed some time ago. Before, I was able to do everything to win and I was pushing forward at any cost, which made me mentally exhausted. So today, I'm rather analyzing the situation and then deciding if I'm in. Do I need something new? It's a yes and no kind of answer. Surely I don't need new objects and it takes me time till I'm convinced to use something new. I'm not the kind of person who needs to have what others have. And anytime someone is telling me, oh, it's so awesome, you have to buy it, I'm more like, no, I don't. On the other hand, I need to stimulate my brain by learning new stuff so I'm able to focus on it without any problem and feel joy. How am I dealing with deadlines? I'm actually feeling good in chaotic moments because when everyone is stressed and paralyzed, I'm calm and I can start thinking about getting things done. At some point, I need deadlines, otherwise, I'll postpone completing a task by like forever. I bet you also did things at the last moment and submitted it like 1 minute before the deadline. You probably tried to change it many times but failed. Yes, I was there too, and I still don't get how people do their tasks right after receiving them to have more time. To me, it's the opposite. I have more time before, and I still have time before the deadline. This might have something to do with setting priorities, but also how we perceive time. Time? Sounds abstract to some of you? Some ADHD people experience altered time perception. How does it feel like? First, time blindness is a difficulty in measuring time. You think that 1 hour passed while it was only 10 minutes. It might feel like days are passing by without us noticing it. It's like time is slipping away. I remember when I was working at the airport, time management was really significant there. There was a lot of pressure from the airport to board people and from the captains to not lose the time slot. After some time, I was able to measure 5 minutes without looking at the clock, but it was a skill rather than a natural feeling to me. Of course, once I stopped working there, I completely lost it. Another matter is time management itself. You might find difficulties in estimating how long it will take to finish a task, and also after finishing it, it can be challenging to say how long it took. Planning ahead seems impossible as you can't picture doing it and you still have a lot of time. Time also seems to pass faster than it actually does. I often say this 15 minutes felt like 3 hours, especially when I'm waiting for something. While time management is challenging, this is where deadlines don't seem real until the specific date. When it comes to altered time perception, even our brains are showing differences in the activity that is happening in the frontal lobe. Our nervous system can have blocked connections that affect time perception. Is it possible to learn it then? Yes, it is. It just requires a lot of patience and finding the right strategy that will work. So one day you'll change from a person that is always late to a person that is on time. I can be hyper-focused for hours. When a task is small, I will have it done within 2 hours, but with bigger ones, I will do it as long as it takes, so I can even stay focused for 8 hours. It is good and bad at the same time, because of course I'll have it done, but on the other hand, I won't eat, drink or pee, or simply move. It's the only time that I'm actually sitting still and I end up with back pain. Sometimes people are complaining that they've been talking to me, and I'm like, no, you didn't. Because I'm so focused that I don't actually hear anyone. I don't hear the airplanes that are crossing the sky above my home, or I don't hear the dogs barking. Like, literally anything is just blocked. One of the strategies to avoid the pitfalls is to set up a timer on your phone and have a break or ask someone to call you to remind you about it. Many times I was hyper focusing in work and I basically abused my right to have a break. I wanted to finish given tasks and I was so focused on them that I was forgetting about the whole world. And if you are abusing your right to have a break in work, I'm gonna tell you something. Nobody will thank you for it. Nobody will pet you or give a shit. No amount of time will ever be enough to an employer. Please have a break for your own sanity. My problem with hyperfocus was not only about time management, but dealing with boring tasks. I noticed that my friends could do that easily while I was struggling because I couldn't find the trigger. With time, I learned to trick my brain and to give myself a reward after finishing tasks. What kind of reward? For example, I'll buy myself a chocolate or play a game, or if it's a big deal, I'll have takeout. Then, when I already know the stakes, I'm fully in. Is hyperfocus always so satisfying? Not always. Sometimes the outcome can be the opposite. I guess oftentimes you take a big project into your own hands and want to perfect it or solve the unsolvable. You learn a new field in one day just to have it done, and then it's so hard to admit that it was too much. Facing a dead end is devastating, and you just want to cry because you spent so many hours on it. That promised dopamine shot never happened. I've been there so many times. I wanted to save the world only to find out after all that I'm burnout. Even a few days ago, I was searching for scientific articles for fun and I found a few unsolved cases, and of course, I was like, I have to know everything and focus. My response was really fast, and I thought, Natalie, stop. You won't find a solution. Leave it. You will only get upset after all. It's actually funny that we can focus on things we don't know and we find it interesting enough to dive in. So, are we going to save the world?